Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
Hello, what's up? This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I am your host, Sean Dustin. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. It's good to have you with us this evening. If you're getting any value out of what I'm doing, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel and thumbs the video up. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and share and like this. And if you're on the podcast platforms listening, which this will publish tomorrow, do me a favor, subscribe, rate, or review if you're on iTunes. Subscribe at all if you're on any of these platforms. I'm on all of them. That helps my listenership grow, and it actually helps me get to be more visible on the podcast platforms themselves. If you like the StreamYard, what is this called, app that I'm using, do me a favor and use this link if you want to use it and check it out. It's free. There is a free version. If you use that link, when you do decide to upgrade to the paid version, which will allow you to stream to 3 locations at one time, a lot of other pluses to this streaming app. Use that, and when you do decide to get the paid version, you'll get a $10 discount, and I will actually get some money as well, and that will help the show. If you like to support the show in any other way, monetarily, or follow me on social media, you can do that by going to my link tree right there. But everything that I have and all of the links from my guest and myself will be available in the description or the show notes, whichever one. So my guest this evening is Morgyn Danae, and she is God, I'm horrible at this sometimes. She just told me, and I just forgot. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, a core specialist, I know that, and we'll let her tell you guys. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's what happens in a live show.
It's Mercury retrograde, too. Everybody could probably relate on some level. We just have to laugh. It's all okay.
Right. So anyways, hi, Morgyn. How are you?
I'm
Happy
good.
Friday.
Thank you. Happy Friday to you, too. New moon energy we're in as of yesterday, too.
Don't know a whole lot about that, but maybe you can explain it. Why don't you tell everybody what I screwed up and what you do?
Okay. Well, there's a lot to say in it. I basically have an interdisciplinary approach and kind of meet people where they're at with what I offer. So I'm a recovery coach, a dance therapist, and a core specialist. So basically I specialize with through dance and through core healing. And I have a mind, body, spirit approach. And I'm also a mental health advocate. So I work in very much with the body. And we were talking about using that word somatic, basically somatic recovery coach, and people don't always aren't familiar with that term so much. So basically somatic really has to do with working with the body, with the intelligence of the body and how our body holds our stories, it holds our emotions, it reflects, and our body talks to us. It gives us signs when we're needing to pay attention to healing ourselves and in whatever way we need to pay attention.
Yeah, it sounds an awful lot like there's a book out there called "The Body Keeps the Score."
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Sort of the same concept.
Yeah, same general idea. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we had a conversation probably almost maybe 2 weeks ago to a month. And we had a really good conversation. Actually, we talked for about an hour on the phone. Sometimes I don't like to do that because I feel like I waste the good content and the good conversation on the pre stuff.
Right.
And by the time my guest gets here, I'm like, all right, what do we talk about?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
But so do you deal with mostly? Do you service mostly women, or do you do both?
Well, I do specialize with women, and at this time with a lot of what I'm doing, it's I really am focused with women. But it's interesting because I am 53 and I have been in the realm of doing healing work for over 25 years, and it's kind of been continuing to evolve. So I have worked with men a lot in families, as well. But I've always done a lot of specialized work with women. Mm-hmm. And so I'll say that, yes, I am focused with women, and also say that as things open up and I'm doing more work with the in groups with the dance work, with the dance therapy work in supporting mental health, and really I work with divine feminine energy. And that's kind of something else to kind of go into more, but that's healing energy for all of us. And I'll just put it out there since we're talking about, you're asking me too. I have done work in co-ed groups with the dance movement. And I think that's something I would like to eventually be offering as well in co-ed stuff. I've worked with a few men in the capacity of what I'm doing here and there, those kind of who come through, who were kind of called to the work.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so are you doing a lot of this since we are in the situation that we're in, California is in, I think, the purple, I guess, still. And you're in California as well, down in Southern Cal. Are you working via Zoom or virtual, or are you doing one-on-ones, or like, how is that working out for you?
Yeah. So I landed safely in California and got settled just before the pandemic hit. And so, it was really clear that, I wanted to do some outdoor stuff at the time, here and there, but it was like, no, as things kind of went on, I thought, oh, maybe I can start to offer some of that, but I'm really keeping everything virtual at this time. And basically just taking that as an opportunity to just really focus on developing my virtual platform, which was always an element of what I did anyway. And I've been doing one-on-one work through Zoom since like 2013. So that was already, in place. But really started to just move into more group stuff online through Zoom and e-course stuff in about 2018, 2019. So I'm just starting building a new round of some virtual classes as well. So yes, everything right now is virtual for the times. And I really look forward to being able to do work with people in person as well, offer workshops and classes as well as sessions and outdoor stuff, for now. Just accepting.
Yeah, I had somebody give me a Reiki session not too long ago. That was interesting.
Yeah, love to hear about that.
So let's talk a little bit about your past and what got you into this. You focus heavily on trauma, and when I read your literature and some of the bio stuff that you gave me, trauma came up a lot in your wording. So what, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of trauma did you suffer, if you want to expand on that, if it's not too intrusive?
No, that's fine. Basically, I tell my recovery story, and depending on who I'm speaking with, I share what needs to be, shared in the story. And so basically, I'll start by saying, the foundation that I work from, and this was where I started to get my healing, was really recognizing that basically on this planet, we've all been impacted by fear-based reality. So that in itself, any separation from the self, separation from, and I speak from the place of a sense of being connected to love, to a divine source, that is right there, not being taught how to love ourselves. That's a trauma right there, because we really, that separation from self, from our essence is a painful thing, and some of us we're kind of more jolted into that experience at a young age, recognizing that, everybody's has their own family story, and, how trauma has or has not affected them in those dynamics too. So with my story, I basically some of the trauma had to do with, mental, emotional abuse and sexual abuse. And, I grew up in a very affectionate, loving, artistic, very talented, and, family with many beautiful things. And like so many families, there was also illness, there was also the illness, you could say, which is in that this dynamic showed up in terms of, some mental illness, addiction, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, things like that. So there were, the good and the bad, so to speak, and so, and then, childhood experiences of also sexual abuse, other strangers, when that wound is there, it can draw that. So
I'm gonna
a lot of pain.
Real quick right there, and not like I said, not to get too intrusive, but when you talk about sexual abuse, are you talking about like the kind of stuff that happens when you're kids and you're playing doctor, or is it something that happened more?
Well, I don't really necessarily go through all the details of what I walked through.
I mean, not the details. I don't want the details. But what I mean is that you have that. Kids do what kids do. You know what I mean?
I'm not talking about kids.
Okay.
I'm talking about adults and power dynamics abuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I just wanted to clarify because there is a difference there.
Well, and that's a good thing to bring up, in that if any child speaks about having an experience, or anybody speaks about having an experience of being abused, it's really important that that person's perspective and experience never be diminished. Mm-hmm. It's really important to honor whatever the impact was on them, because what can happen with children doing that, when there's a power dynamic, still abuse is abuse when there's a power dynamic, has to do with that as well, and non-consensual, for one thing, consensual, but also when children are abused, a lot of the time they act out sexually. And that's another thing. There's children might have, experimentation or whatever, things like that, whatever, but abuse is a whole other kind of thing. And there are a lot of layers. So I'm not a child sexual abuse expert that talks widely on all the nuances, but I can definitely say that there is an element of, there's a lot of acting out that can happen when children are sexually abused, how they behave with each other. It can also be bullying. It can be, all kinds of things,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It manifests itself in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
be it hypersexual activity when they are older. If something happened when, let's just say, they were in their teens, as they progress into adulthood and in their 20s and 30s, it shows itself in almost like recreating the trauma in certain aspects of it, and it really is sad. And I talk about this a lot. We talked about this too, is that untreated trauma really should be the number one public safety issue, because what spurs and stems from that is
high five right now. Yes.
Oh, I missed my camera.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Where is it? Where are you?
Yeah.
What's 10.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
what spurs and spins off of that is what we see in our prisons, what we see unhealthy ways of just living and being and uh, communicating and dealing with other people.
Yes, so much. I mean, it's just everywhere, and it really, I mean, so a couple things on that too. Um, you know, Again, it's that separation from love. It's that separation from self-love. Not knowing how to love the self, not knowing how to love each other in healthy ways. Where the illness, kind of seeps in, and we humans, have just been abusive to each other. Whether it's in family dynamics, so many little things too that we learn to do. We just have to heal it. That's all. I mean, it's in the isms, all the social ills, that we have that are just so out of. I mean, even if they're small, they're out of hand. But we really need to be learning new ways to treat ourselves and treat each other that are loving. But we have to do the healing process, and there was something I think that we had a glitch there for a second.
We did.
Yeah, but just to also go back to what your point, we were talking about kind of the promiscuity of acting out from the trauma of sexual abuse. There, and I don't know if I missed you saying it too, but the other side of that coin can be completely shutting down to not even being connected, not being open at all sexually as well, and needing to. These are all coping mechanisms, though, both extremes, both extremes. So what is the middle ground for each individual? Everybody's different, and finding their own balance. And people can be, the thing is with trauma too, we shut down and we numb out, right? So you can be acting out and doing all this stuff, but you're not really in your body. You're not really present. And that's where we come back to the somatic. And then again, you can be shutting down and just be like cold and not wanting, being completely disgusted by sex, or completely feeling really ugly and really unattractive, and these are all just extreme coping mechanisms. They have their purpose and their value. So you don't just strip that away from somebody. All the coping mechanisms, they've all had their purpose. So the healing process is learning new ways, substituting with new ways that are healing for it, that each person feels safe with. They have to be, it feels like that they're open to that.
Yeah, I mean, in my oh, hold on. We got a comment. Maria, my friend Maria Daniels,
Cool.
who I host actually we work together on a project called Indie Pods United, and we also do a clubhouse Q&A and intro on Wednesdays now that we just started that. So
Cool.
about
Very
podcasting
cool.
and stuff like that. So hi Maria, thank you. I love the support, and she actually just gave me an awesome review on iTunes, and I have to return. I have to return the favor. I'm bad at that. I'm not very good at that, so I have to make sure that I do.
Support each other.
Yep, absolutely. So to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and so much of what we do and the dysfunctionality of what we were a part of or experienced when we were younger has to do with that shadow underlayer of our subconscious, and not just doing things that we don't even realize that we're doing, and it just sort of happens. I gave an example of for myself, self sabotage used to be really, really prevalent in my life. And like every time things would be going good, and it was like, all right, am I finally going to break through? And then all of a sudden I'd burn the house down.
Yeah.
and or my own house, whatever it is that
Right.
I was
I hear you. Either
not
way, right?
somebody
Yeah.
else's house. I'd burn my own
Yes.
internal house down or whatever it is that I had going, a good job. I'd blow it. I'd go back to using drugs. I would do whatever.
Yeah.
And when I started taking a deeper look into that, it when I grew up in an abusive, verbally abusive and mentally abusive. I can't say that I saw any physical abuse, but I've been told that there was, but I never saw it. So I can't speak on that. But
Hmm.
what I can speak on is that there was a lot of chaos that was going on in my house at that time. And
Hmm.
so I think just subconsciously, I got so used to being in chaos that whenever I would go into calm periods in my life, I didn't know what to do with it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like I was just constantly trying to recreate the trauma
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and the chaos because I know how to operate when things are going, when there's yelling everywhere, when there's this or that. And even in my own relationships, I find that I'll start arguments for no reason.
Mm. Yeah.
And to kind of I don't know. I don't know why I do it, but I can only imagine that that has something to do with it.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's all, it's all a process, and it's layer by layer, and you can heal that as well.
Mhm.
It's all just a process, you know.
So walk me through what you would do, and then talk a little bit about the dance element of that because that's something that's a little different. I've never heard anybody have a dance sort of element and expression to what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say also quickly, I don't know why my face looks bright orange, but it does. Does it look bright orange to you? I don't know. It didn't before I came on, but for whatever reason, I look like I have a very nice sunburn. So for whatever reason,
Well,
um,
I could bring you up a little bit closer so we can all see it, or you could stay back
yeah,
that way.
here we go. I
Oh,
don't
there
know.
you go.
Woo! I mean, it doesn't matter what distance. I'm just noticing it.
All right.
Um, um, so okay. So basically, like I said, I have different, I kind of wear a few hats with what I do, but the foundational piece still has to do, it's still a mind, body, spirit approach. And it's very much about connecting in with finding peace in your body, with self love, with learning about self love, and how to care for ourselves, and addressing whatever kind of, we also address the kind of the issues that are up for people as well. So you know learning how to care for ourselves and listen to our bodies, especially when we're in pain, is a really powerful tool. It does require um, it does require a focus, and it does require a willingness to slow down in order to tune in. And some of the tools that we work with that are working with breath work. Breath work is kind of foundational. Whether we're dealing with specific kind of physical issues that somebody might be dealing with, different core dysfunctions or low back and hip pain, that kind of thing, digestive issues. Um, with recovering from depression or anxiety, you know, poor body image, wanting to really learn how to love yourself and be have a healthy lifestyle. Even with the dance movement, dance is such a powerful way to tap into our bodies. And again, we can be doing all these things with dance and still be disconnected from our bodies. Technically doing all these great things and looking great and having all this skill, but to really tap into our feelings and allow, again, those emotions to come through, allow ourselves to feel into the movement, and actually allow that vibrate. I mean, do you like to dance? Do you dance?
I I can. I don't use I don't usually. I'm good at it. I used to be a raver, so I mean I would be
All
with
right,
the
cool.
glow sticks and all that stuff back in the day.
Yeah, that's a
But
good marathon right there.
oh yeah, but I was usually high on drugs and sweating profusely and probably on the verge of a heart attack. But
That's a different kind of dance therapy. But at
yeah,
the same time, so I'm going to bridge this with you just a little bit. But there was a reason why you were doing it, right? And so maybe you were doing it using drugs in that process. Obviously, we're not using drugs, we're not using substances in that way. But there is an altered state that one goes into in with the music, with the rhythm, with the movement. That sweat that's awesome. Sweating, all of that. Of course, you want to make sure you hydrate as well with water.
yeah,
But this is just part of our human legacy. We were designed by nature to go into these healing states. We go into them through different, you know, yeah. So,
Here, let's address these real quick so I can get them off the
sure.
screen. So
It's like
Stacy
they came
Price.
across something.
Yeah, Stacy Price, she's actually does a show with Maria as well, and that's a really good one.
Oh, okay. This is okay. I was
Yeah.
wondering that was another name. Okay.
Yeah, so I've been there too, Sean. Like in my past relationships, I got used to the manipulation. Yeah, that's a definite thing right there. And then here's a funny. I want to see Sean doing the Running Man. Well, I'm pretty good at the Roger Rabbit.
These are dance. These are the healing dance moves.
These are if you grew if you're in your 40s, you know what these dances are. Now I think they've got these. I don't even know what they have now. I see them on TikTok, but I couldn't tell you what they are.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on over there. So basically, yeah, we have healing states that we go into, that we're designed to go into, and so it's really just reclaiming the fact that dance, movement, music, using the breath, these are ways to move into healing states, and we can do them with intention as well, where we're really focusing on tuning into our hearts, tuning into our spirits, learning to ground our bodies too, because whether we're talking about trauma and whatever different way, or we can just say modern society also, how we disconnect from our bodies, we get very stuck in our heads. And that's, look at the mental health epidemic, illness epidemic. It's too much going on, right? So coming into the body, but finding peace in our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on something that's really important, and I didn't realize how important this actually was. But with breathing, because most of us breathe through our mouths, and the correct way to breathe, if I'm not mistaken, and I got this from a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking to a breathing expert. If you start breathing through your nose more often, like people that have, like me, I have a deviated septum, so it's really hard for me to get that going. You know what I mean? It always feels like it's constricted. He said, but if you constantly do it and you manage to do it all the time, your nose will naturally just open up on its own. And so, yeah, that's really good. And I think, that's why we have hair in our nose too, is to catch,
it filters. Yeah.
Filters out.
Well, we also have, our lungs filter as well. Our bodies are designed to support us. The breathing through the nostrils, like the inhale is really important. You can exhale or exhale through the nose or the mouth. Actually, people say different things, but I think, kind of like a inhale and an exhale through the nose or a relaxed mouth. Sometimes people want to, like in the relaxing breathing, they'll try to go, there's a time and a place. You can do so many different kinds of breath work, but just in terms of kind of being able to access that, the way that we were kind of designed to breathe, that is balancing for our nervous system so that we're not worrying, like that kind of nonstop brain chatter, mind chatter, and also feeling like we're always kind of like on the defensive or very distracted. We're a very distracted society. Those are all really strong signs of the nervous system really being out of balance, because we're not designed to always be like that. We have to be that way for certain reasons, to show up for life, to show up for survival and all those things. But the constant and the, hypervigilance is another element of that. And those are all coping mechanisms. But out of balance, it was really hard to stay centered in our breath. And it affects us on so many levels, even physically, with aches and pains, our immune systems. It just whittles away at the immune system. Because it creates all this stress hormones in the body as well. So it doesn't mean we never want to be on guard. We never, it certainly doesn't mean don't, move your body around, but it just means that being in that kind of grounded state and being in your breath, reclaiming that, because we start to shut down our breath at really young ages to cope. It's all coping. It all has its value. Stress, trauma, whatever, we're trying to cope with. And we start to kind of close down. That's also a way of closing the heart. Sometimes people, when they start to open up and start to learn to breathe again, so to speak, it's an opening of the heart. You can get in touch with all kinds of feelings. Sometimes people cry. Sometimes, the body can shake. That can happen with energy work as well. But it's like releasing as well. It's a cleansing. It's a releasing of energy, emotions, toxins, physical toxins that get stored. And it happens, it's male, female, everybody, it's a human thing. But again, it's all just coming back into a balance. We are nature. So we look at nature and nature's cycles too. There are cycles, and it's a balance. It's a movement, it's a flow. And there are patterns in nature, cycles, just like that. That's what we have. But when we want to we're making all this fake stuff up and thinking that that's the way we're supposed to live, and it's making us sick, and it's making the planet sick, so all of these things are just reflecting all that imbalance. And we can come back to balance if we even just following the blueprints kind of how our bodies were designed. And and this is the perspective that I come from with the work, and just recognizing that love is really what kind of helps us to come into balance in our lives as well, and how we learn to apply that to ourselves in our lives. It calms us,
Yeah, well, when you show up with love, it's really hard to hate, right? When you are intentionally just not like, when I think of love, I think of tolerance. I think of like just acceptance, people. Yeah, I may not, and that this podcast really has helped me a lot with that, in being able to listen to other people, being able to hear different perspectives, some that maybe I may not even agree with, or it may not even resonate with me, but I still give it the respect that it deserves. That hey, that's your experience. That's that's your experience in your lane, and how you're perceiving whatever it is around you, and who am I to impose on that, right? If that's how you feel, and that's what's good for you and good for your family and good for your life, then there's really, what do I have to say about it? Thanks for sharing. I'll take maybe I'll take a look at that, and maybe I'll even implement it. If I get to a point where I'm stuck and don't understand or can't figure out where to go.
Yeah.
Anybody out there that's watching or listening right now, if you want, feel free to drop some questions for Morgyn in the comments. Maria, Stacy, I know this is Maria for sure. I know this is right in your lane of what you do and holistic health and all the things that you're involved in. I should actually hook you up with her to put you on and get you on her show.
Cool.
Morgyn, she's definitely a good person to talk to.
Cool.
So yeah, it's it sounds like you've got it pretty well oiled there. What with everything that
always
you're
learning.
Yeah. With everything that you're seeing now in society, with all the things that are happening and people that are being kind of forced to stay away from other people, and the traumas that or not even traumas, just the dysfunctionality of maybe a bad relationship or a bad marriage that you can't really get out of. And maybe going to work was your only escape, or going to, if you're a kid, maybe going to school was your only reprieve from that abusive household, or that person that made you feel like crap, or verbally abused you at home, or whatever. I mean, a lot of that is just prevalent right now, right?
Yeah, everything's intensified.
So how do you what what do you see for the future? Do you like how do you think this is all going to shake out in terms of that? Like, we don't know what's going to happen with the lockdowns, and when everything's going to go to normal. But I mean, I'm thinking, when it does actually come to fruition, or come back around to, maybe we may start seeing some semblance of normalcy, whatever that looks like, or whatever that word even means anymore, right? Um, so yeah, Maria's got another thing. I may have missed this part, but what inspired you to get into this focus?
Well, yeah, great question. I mean, so again, my sure there's my own story of needing to heal and knowing that I really wasn't going to make it if I didn't heal myself and I didn't heal the pain in my own heart and how it was manifesting in my own body at a very, young age. It's like probably really stuff was showing itself by 19, in my early 20s or so. Um, so I always had, felt a calling towards healing. I was just kind of born with it, that calling and that sensitivity. Um, but I think, the urgency of my own need to heal, the wounded healer, healer, heal thyself. And really, it sensitized me to other people as well, and what other people, just feeling people, caring about that, and knowing that as I kept doing my own healing myself as well, and doing my studies, and working with people. It was all concurrently happening, really, But I would say my kind of turning point was in my early mid 20s, when I was like, I can't take this anymore. I have to heal myself, And of course, that work continues, but that was my wake up call. So my wake up call to get deeper into studying, supporting others to heal, was concurrent with my own healing process. And I had to focus on myself first to even get to a place where I could start to, support others, But yeah, it was definitely stemmed out of that own process. And it just kind of evolved. I mean, trauma is part of what I work with, I mean, again, it's that separation from spirit, separation from the self, and so much of it stems back to that in some way, whether people even know or not. I'm not always going to use that word with every single person either, because they kind of have to come to that on their own, and they may never really resonate with that particular word too. You're just like maybe going in where they're knowing that they want to heal something, and they know something needs to change, and so you kind of let that evolve and open up to them just feeling more connected to themselves, and more loving and more able to care for themselves. Um, so I think that, yeah, I was just, it just kind of kept opening up. So even, whatever I was working with, I was always looking for the deeper reasons, whether it was doing body work, breath work, energy work, dance, movement, teaching dance, performing. Everything is about healing to me, you know, um, and doing fitness training, all of it.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say too is that not everything, not everybody experiences childhood trauma.
Yeah,
Not
everybody's got different stories.
Yeah, I know sometimes it seems like a blanket statement when you talk about trauma, and like I'm in some recovery rooms, and I've put some stuff up, and people are like, well, what about the ones that don't? I never had any childhood trauma. I said, yeah, you probably haven't, but I mean, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen later on,
Yeah.
there's also too generational trauma that
Hmm.
people really don't even think about.
Yeah.
And I have an episode about that with a guy that deals with it, and I didn't I didn't understand it, and I'd heard it before, and I was like, yeah, 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 but it makes a lot of sense when you think about, um, let's just take birds for example. Let's take ducks. All right, how do they know how to go when nobody's ever told them how to go from the north to the south to wherever it is that they do? How do they know how to do these things automatically? Well, it's ingrained in their DNA,
Hmm.
right? It gets
Hmm.
implanted there, and it's almost like that blueprint. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we're living beings as well, and we all kind of have the same sort of thing, right?
Hmm.
So if, let's say, maybe your father or grandfather or mother or grandmother experienced some sort of like horrific event, like maybe they were, I don't know, I don't want to like name any event that's could, but just anything,
Yeah. No, my mom grew up in World War II in London. That
Okay.
was very traumatic.
And so, like, did she have something that she experienced that showed up in you at some point, or?
Yeah, well, we have an intense family. She was evacuated like countless times. She was in bomb shelters with the bombs going out, and I think there's that interesting combination of spiritual gifts and heightened sensitivity and psychic gifts and the ability to move in different dimensions, and that it makes for a very sensitive nervous system anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a very sensitive body as well. But yeah, yeah, I can recognize where I mean, I've done I mean, basically, so okay. One, I remember when I was in my 20s, one thing people used to that knew me would say they had this term for this place that they knew that I would go to. I could go to easily because my nervous system was so sensitive, like or so on edge. We talk about that edge. It was called the Place of Hysteria. I just kind of lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and the mental illness. I mean, sure, the mental illness. I mean, I've walked to the other side of these things now, but that's been work, layers and layers of work. So, yeah, that, stuff like panic attacks and, I mean, they're sure that's connected to my own, this lifetime as well experiences, but absolutely I can recognize some of those traits being passed on, feeling them in myself to heal. And I'm aware of my own past lineages, and I've done a lot of spiritual work too in terms of working with my ancestors and such too. So kind of recognizing that these things are passed on. I mean, deep spiritual work is a whole other. I mean, it's not a whole other. It's all connected, honestly. But not everybody is necessarily going to resonate with that. But that's kind of foundational to what I do is spiritual work. You know,
Yeah, panic attacks are no fun. I've had a couple, and uh,
terrible.
I think now, is anxiety similar to that, or is it a little bit different?
Yeah, I mean, panic attack is kind of like an like acute, really heightened, out of control anxiety, where you just have no control. I mean, people, I don't think I ever went to that kind of hyperventilating place, but I've had, again, in my past attacks where, I mean, I literally just started vomiting. I mean, it was just pure and utter terror and nowhere to go in my body, no peace, no place to find any peace. Um, but I know it can look different ways. You can get disoriented, you can break out into sweats. So that's really kind of a severe, acute type of anxiety, like an anxiety attack is like a panic
Hmm.
attack,
Hmm.
you know.
It's just not
And
as.
some anxiety is like it's just low, it just keeps going. It's just always there.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
yeah.
depends on the person.
Yeah, my ex-wife, she suffered from that, and like literally it was, we could be driving in the car, and all of a sudden she'll go quiet and look pale and just not talk and just be frozen. And it's like, and when you're on the other side of that and don't understand it, it can be, I mean, I wasn't very supportive because I didn't understand. And then when you don't
Mhm.
understand, sometimes you get scared, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
And then
scary.
it's, yeah, and then you're just like, what, stop, you know what I mean? And then you're just making
Hmm.
it worse. Really, you're just making it worse for them, and instead of letting them, get through it. Because obviously, if somebody is suffering from that and they have been for years in their life, they know what they need to do to get through that, I would imagine. So yeah, it's really, you gotta understand who you're with, and that just because you don't understand something, doesn't mean that it's not real to somebody else, right?
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all have our stories, and really, I mean, I just really believe in supporting people to kind of like hold the space to kind of help to bridge them to bridge back to themselves. So kind of be like a bridge, so to speak, so they can find, yeah, exactly, layers. And it is very, it's diligence, yeah. Um, and people, you know, don't always have the tools or the perspective to see. Yes, dealing with trauma takes layers of work, mind, body, spirit, exactly. And kind of like just dealing with one layer or dealing with one facet of the self is not necessarily getting to the root. And where I come from, I really believe that we can heal, but we really will not heal unless we are taking self responsibility. We are learning self care.
Hmm.
We are learning self love. We are not giving our power away. We are being supported by others and guided and, trained or taught in all kinds of ways. But just, we have been kind of given our power away, even to caregivers or the system, and I
Hmm.
really believe that it's ultimately self ownership. Yeah, social anxiety as well. Yeah, these things can just go on, and they can actually become a part of a person's identity, and they don't know how to separate themselves from it and see, oh, this is part of the illness, and I can start to heal the illness. I can learn ways to heal. And people have different perspectives on things. I like I said, I come from this perspective that we can heal. But you know what? People have to go where they feel the resonance with what somebody's saying or not, And I really believe that our healing process is a very personal process, you know.
Yeah, and then
And it
also,
is getting to know yourself better, becoming more and more of who you are.
yeah, absolutely, and having conversations like this out in the open, where it sort of takes away the stigma of it and gets people used to hearing other folks that you may not even think would even talk about stuff like this.
Sure.
And when we see other people doing things and we see other people talking about it, sometimes it gives them permission to feel okay to talk about it too.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important to have, kindred spirits, people around you. And it's not even like anybody has to have necessarily had the same experience. I mean, it's great when we can reflect back or, or mirror or, whatever, just have kindred spirits. But like just having compassion for somebody, just literally like just being there with them, like as they are in their feelings or you know, it's just being a loving person around somebody who's going through something hard. You mean we can't decide somebody else's path for them, but just not being isolated and in that way of having nobody to, I don't know, kind of feel like there's nobody on your side.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
the truth is, I believe that we are not alone spiritually, that we're always surrounded by love, and that we have a divine teams with us. We have a higher power, and we can work with that. That's always where I'm going to come from too. Is that again, that's a personal journey, and that is your own personal relationship with however you relate to that. But that's where I come from when I'm working with people. That's, you know, so they get to again always decide what resonates. If I working with me resonates or not. I respect everybody's own process to choose whatever feels right for them because that's their sacred process.
So what's your process? So let's just say somebody's listening and they're like, I dig what she's saying, and I wanna connect with Morgyn. Do you have an introductory type? Like, hey, let's have a chat and see if we connect, see if we are on the same wavelength. Like, how does that process work?
Yeah, absolutely. I offer a 20-minute free consultation just to connect. And I have a website also, morgandanae.com, to be able to look at and see the different things that I work with. Again, I mean, I have worked with people just literally focusing on reclaiming their lives and who are in literally active in their mental health recovery, not somebody who's in crisis but somebody who's literally focused on they're doing the healing work, they're going to do the healing work. But I do a lot of the things that I work with are with body, movement and fitness and dance. And so taking a look at my website is great. But yeah, a 20-minute consultation. I also have some, virtual classes that I offer that can kind of give you an idea of, and there'll be more too. I'm kind of, I'm in that process of, well, figuring out some of this virtual stuff as well, even though I've been working with people one to one since 2013. There's a lot to learn, and for getting, you know, everything virtual.
Yeah, well, building your audience is really what you're talking about. Getting an
Yeah.
audience, getting a following. I mean, you got a pretty good Instagram following. And like I said, you got morgandanae.com down there. That is not in the description. So if you're interested, I didn't see your website on my stuff, or else I would have thrown that in there.
Thanks for
Um,
sharing.
yeah, you
sharing.
got that. Then you also got her Instagram, Morgan Danae Wellness. She has another Instagram as well, which is Gaia Dancer. Morgan
I'm
Danae.
I'm gonna close that one up, I think, in the
Yeah.
next. I've
I,
decided in this new moon energy too, that's gonna keep with Morgan Danae Wellness.
well, yeah, that one's doing a lot better as far as followers, anyways. I think.
It's just that I don't focusing on I want to bring it
Hmm.
all in so that I can focus.
Yeah, I know
I
exactly
can't
what you mean.
it,
There's so many apps. There's so many social media platforms. There's just way too much. If you're gonna try and be
you have to
across
focus, right?
yeah, if you're gonna be across every platform, you're gonna be spending 10% of your time on each one, and everything's gonna go really slow. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I know people hire people to do that, so I guess that's probably where it's functional when you are at that place where you're hiring a team or whatever. One person who, probably a millennial that's just like, blah, 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 doing all, the things that they do. They're so amazing. But yeah, so I just realized, okay, well, let's bring this in because I really am not focusing on that so much right now because I'm focusing on it, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, for
and
sure.
yeah.
And then there's her LinkedIn there. That's in the description as well. And then I put a link to the your dancing meditations, your YouTube video.
Oh yeah.
That's
Okay.
also in there. So yeah, there's plenty of places to find Morgan Janae. Go ahead and we're at 53. So go ahead and let everybody know anything else that I didn't get to as we close this out.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I mean, checking out the website is good because then you really kind of can see there's a lot going on. If you look in my Instagram bio, Morgan Danae Wellness, and my link tree, I've got some other links. So I know websites can kind of be overwhelming sometimes when you just go in there. But I've also got some, links in the bio that you can, I've got a little section on where you can see the online virtual classes, e-course. You can I've got links to specific things in the website to my own recovery story, dance therapy, the core recovery. I work with rehab to strength with that as well, because our working with our cores is a really profound thing. There are a lot of people who have a lot of different issues with their bellies and their cores, and I work in this whole area and hip mobility, low back pain, those kinds of things as well. And we can store emotion and uh, a lot of pain, emotional pain as well as physical pain in these areas. So coming into health is really possible, and that also affects our mental health, the mind and the the mind gut connection is very connected in with our nervous system. These things are all very interwoven. So if you're dealing with other kind of physical issues like that, just know that taking care of your physical health and addressing these things is really, really important for our mental health as well. They kind of work one with the other. We're not separate. We're not really these segments. We're really interconnected, all of us. We're pretty amazing. We're really kind of like miracles, each one of us, the way we're designed.
Yeah, we're definitely resilient, that's for sure, and we
We are.
adapt. We adapt to things rather quickly when need be, and
Yeah.
dealing with inflammation too is also important because
Yeah, that's a part of
inflammation.
it.
Yeah,
Inflammation is a real reflection. It's very connected. It impacts our immune system and vice versa. And trauma is another way that it can show up big time inflammation in our bodies.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
another thing to take a look at. And I love Linktree. Linktree
Yeah, it's great.
is an amazing tool. Is it's almost like an e resume if you do it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can put all your accomplishments, anything that you like, in order of how you want people to see you. So I love it.
Yeah.
I have a link tree as well, and I wish I would have known what yours was. I could probably throw it up here real quick. What is it? linktr.ee/Morgyn Danae.
Morgan Danae Wellness, but that's interesting. I have never done that. I've only had it in Instagram, my Instagram profile.
Oh, that's a link in. Is that your link in? Oh
No,
no.
my link tree
Okay.
it's a link that I put in my Instagram profile. But I didn't know you can. I never thought about you putting it up on screens and other places. I see you
Morgan.
have link tree here too. Nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, I do, and it has like all my stuff that I want people to see. And usually when I am scheduling stuff, is that right? Right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so usually when I'm scheduling stuff, or I'll be talking to somebody and they'll go, "Hey, I'd love to be on your show, or know more about you." I just direct them to my link tree, and if they want to, after you see everything that I'm about and what I'm doing, there's book a guest spot tab there. Go ahead and do that, and then we'll go from there. And so it really takes a lot of the explanation out of it, and making, because a lot of times when you're trying to explain something to somebody, they feel like they're on the spot and will have to tell you, oh, I give you an answer. And it's like, no, don't even worry about it, man. Take a look at
Link
it.
tree. Look at my link
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah, take a look at it. If it resonates with you, then we can go from there. If not, don't no hard
Exactly.
no.
Absolutely. There's so much to choose from. You got to just go where you feel called to. I mean, thank God. Thank God. Yes. I followed where I was called to. It saved my life. I really believe that the souls that we're meant to work with we'll find each other. I mean, we have to do the work to put ourselves out there and such that level, but it's not a desperate thing. It's not a I don't it's not like pressuring people or like manipulating them. It's like, yeah, I mean, this is it. And if you have questions, or let me try to put things out there for you to understand, and follow your heart.
Exactly. I just plant seeds, man.
Yeah,
I plant
exactly.
seeds politely, and if they take, they take. And
Yeah.
usually what ends up happening is I may plant a seed, and somebody's friends may say the same thing or something similar to it, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, I heard that from whatever. And then there it
Yeah.
goes. Then it puts like a bookmark in that thing, and then the next person that they hear it from, they're like, okay, now I need to check this out, because that's a third person. Yeah, that's a third person I've heard the same kind of thing from. So let me do a little bit more research on this and see where it leads me.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, that's awesome. And I appreciate you coming out this evening and hanging out with me and sharing your wisdom and strength and story with my listeners and the audience.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean.
Yeah. No worries. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to pull us out. We're going to do the exit, and then I'll talk to you in a minute back in the green room.
Okay.
All right. All right. See ya. All right, that was awesome. Thank you, Morgyn and Danae, for sharing everything with us this evening. This is Friday. If you guys are in an area where you can actually be doing something like going out to dinner, that's a strange thing. We don't get to do that much here in California unless you want to eat outside in the cold. I'm envious and I admire and I'm jealous, because I would so like to be hanging out somewhere with a lot of people. But that's just not possible, and it's not safe right now, so go figure. But anyways, we had a packed week this week. I think I had 4 live streams every night, two of them actually one night. So yeah, there's a lot to choose from in my catalog now. So yeah, thank you. If you're a listener, if you're part of the audience, if you support the show, thank you very much. I definitely appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to talking to more people and bringing more information to you as listeners in the audience. So with that, I'm going to sign off and sign out. Enjoy your weekend. See ya.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up. On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast. See you next time.